Hi, I'm Jason Duro. I'm a fantasy author, and today I'm here to talk about comp titles. Now, first of all, what are comp titles? Well, comp title is an abbreviation for competitive titles or comparative titles. I prefer comparative titles because I don't feel like we as authors are actually ever in real competition with each other, but I can make a whole extra video about that later. But today we'll focus on comp titles or comparative titles. In brief, a comp title is another book or a movie or TV show or some other piece of media that you compare what you have written to. You compare your book to it as an illustrative way, and you use it as sort of a shorthand way of describing your book to someone else. And it can be used as a quick way to give them familiarity or to give them recognition and maybe even to pique their interest, because they might hear that your book is similar to this other book or has some elements in common with it, and they might already like that other thing, so then they'll be more interested and predisposed to like your book. Now, I know some people have resistance to using comp titles. I've talked with authors before and have asked them what their comp titles are, and they've said, oh, I don't use comp titles. I don't have any comp titles. My book is 100% unique. I came up with all the ideas myself. It's like nothing else, and it can't be compared to anything else. To that I say, number one, no, it's not. Every book, every plot, every character, every idea that we have comes from somewhere, and nothing is 100% unique. Nothing just forms from nothing in our brain and just pours out there. Everything comes from something else and can be compared to something else that already exists out there. And that's okay. That's a good thing, because that gives us a common language, a common way to talk about and discuss what we create and to bring familiarity to it and make people interested before they even read it. And number two, don't let pride bite you in the butt. Having effective comp titles is a really useful tool for getting your writing into the hands of the people who are going to appreciate it the most. How does that work? Glad you asked. Now that we know what comp titles are, let's talk about why we should have them. Comp titles are a resource that are useful for both indie published authors and traditionally published authors. And a good way to think about them is like an elevator pitch for your book. It's a way that you can describe your book to someone really quickly in just a sentence or a couple of sentences, or maybe even less than a sentence, and it conveys a whole lot of information to the person really fast. It can give them an idea of what the tone of the book is, what tropes might be represented in the book, and yes, every book has tropes in it, whether you realize it or not. And it could convey even character archetypes or the setting or just any number of things that if you pick the right comp titles, you can convey really quickly to a person that you want to explain your book to. Now, who might you want to explain that to in such a quick and shorthand fashion? If you're trying to be a traditionally published author, you're going to be querying a lot of agents. You're going to be sending out a lot of emails. You're going to be asking agents to take a look at your book and to give you a chance. And they see so many submissions a day. They go through so many emails and so many manuscripts that are sent to them that you really need to catch their attention really quickly. And a really good way to do that is to include a really strong and effective comp title or comp titles in your query to them, so that they'll see it and they will immediately have an idea of what your book is about and what it's like and what the experience of reading it is going to be, and also what kind of audience they might be able to bring to it. And once you get an agent, the agent is very likely to actually use comp titles themselves in taking your book to editors at publishers and trying to sell you to a publisher. It's something that's used throughout the agent and publishing industry, and it's something that's essential to have. So you might as well come up with it yourself at the agent seeking phase so that you're ready once you get farther down the road with it. If you're an independent author, and this actually applies to traditional as well, comp titles are also really useful in marketing. You want to have really punchy and effective marketing copy that you can put into ads, that you can put into videos, that you can use to market your book to potential readers. They know what they want, and if they see a comp title, if they see a comparison or a quick description of your book that matches what they're looking for, they're going to grab that thing right up. And especially in places like booktok, where short-form videos are the norm, you can become an overnight success if you make a video of the right length with the right trending audio and you have the perfect list of tropes or comp titles in there. You can turn your career around just like that. I have friends who have become literal overnight successes from a video taking off like that, and it's all because of the text they put in it for a person to read about their book, and it had comp titles that just launched their career. So comp titles can really, really benefit you. Hopefully I've convinced you of the usefulness of comp titles by now, and you might be wondering, how do we pick effective comp titles for our book? There are a lot of different ways that you can do it and a lot of methods, a lot of sources that you can find, but the first thing you need to know is your comp title for your book doesn't have to be another book. It can be a movie or TV show or game or something else that you pull in that is something that can relate to your book. It does have to be applicable to your book and it has to be accurate. You can't sell a reader or an agent some description of your book that doesn't actually match to what you have. And a good practice is not to go too big with the comp titles. Don't pick the biggest titles and biggest franchises because those are kind of ubiquitous now. Star Wars, Harry Potter, even Percy Jackson, things like that. Everyone knows those, but everyone knows them so well that they're used all the time as comp titles, and they've become kind of meaningless in that arena at this point. So you want to pick comp titles that are not huge, but are still really recognizable and are still really applicable to what you have written yourself. One good thing you can do is look for commonalities between what you've written and other popular works out there. Maybe you share a target audience with something else that you've read, or maybe there are common tropes between what you've written and something that you're a fan of, something that you recognize if someone read this other thing and enjoyed it, they would also enjoy your book. Those are things that you really need to look at when you're picking comp titles. And if there is a specific work that inspired the book or inspired your writing, if you watched a movie and some of the tropes from it inspired you and you included those in your book, that might be a good thing to look at for a comp title because it directly influenced what you wrote. And like I said, make sure the comp titles that you pick for your book are actually an accurate representation of what you've written. You don't want to mislead people with it. You wouldn't say that Brandon Sanderson is a comp author for your book if what you've written is a super spicy, explicit fantasy book with a lot of swearing in it or something like that. But you could use it as a contrast kind of thing. You could say maybe that what you have written, that your book is the Zodiac Academy with a Brandon Sanderson magic system in it. And that contrast could be interesting. It isn't the tone that Brandon Sanderson writes, but he is well known for his complex and interesting magic systems. So if you have that aspect in your book, even if it's not the tone that he writes, you can bring in something like Zodiac Academy and just sort of attach that to Brandon Sanderson, have those as your comp titles. And in situations like that, when you have multiple books or multiple series coming together to be your comp titles, usually one will be the main one that sets the tone, and then the other one will modify that. It's almost like a noun and an adjective. There's a central one that, in that example, would probably be Zodiac Academy because the tone of that is more similar to the spicy fantasy book that you've written. And then the Brandon Sanderson magic system attaches onto that and is the modifier. So typically there's one central one that sets the tone and then something that you add to it that changes it from whatever the original one was. Okay, let's say you've picked your comp titles now. Let's say you have a couple of books or a book and a movie or a couple of TV shows that you feel can be compared to what you wrote. Now, how do you present those? Well, there are a few different formats you can use. There are a lot of different formats you can use, but there are three main ones that I have seen most frequently that people use when putting together their comp title presentation. The first one is this meets that. My book is this meets that. It would be like, my book is Agatha Christie meets Isaac Asimov. It's a combination of two common elements, things that people are familiar with, and it's the intersection of those two things. That's where your book falls. It's like on a Venn diagram where the two circles cross. Be Agatha Christie and Isaac Asimov, and right in the middle there, that's your book. That's one way you can present your comp titles. Another way to do it is, my book is this, but with that. The this is a familiar property that you present as the central comp title, and then the but with is what you bolt onto that. So you might say, my book is The Godfather, but with secret agents. It's something that takes a familiar property and then makes a twist on it so that you are still familiar with the idea, but you get a better sense of what's unique about your book. And a third way is just directly referencing the thing. If you like this thing, then you'll like my book. And this one is a little bit weaker because it kind of puts an assumption on the reader, on the agent, or whoever you're giving it to, that they will like this if they like that. But it still does draw a parallel between your book and this other thing that you're comparing it to. So it can be useful. I personally feel like the first two forms that I talked about are a little bit stronger when you are presenting comp titles, but you can play with it. You can change the form and you can maybe make your own form that I didn't even mention here, but any of those should be good good for putting together your comp titles, and people will know what you're talking about and what you're doing. And now, here are some examples that I came up with of comp titles. I would not actually use all of these that I came up with because they do reference TV shows and movies that I think are pretty overused at this point in the comp title game, but I thought it still might be helpful to read off these to you just as sort of an illustrative list of examples. Stranger Things is E.T. meets the Goonies. The Hunger Games is Battle Royale meets The Running Man. Game of Thrones is Lord of the Rings meets The Sopranos. Jurassic Park is Jaws but with dinosaurs. The Matrix is Terminator meets Alice in Wonderland. Parks and Recreation is The Office meets The West Wing. Bridgerton is Downton Abbey meets Gossip Girl. Black Mirror is The Twilight Zone but with technology. The Handmaid's Tale is 1984 meets The Scarlet Letter. What are your own comp titles that you use, or what are some other really good ones that you've heard about other properties? Drop them in the comments here and let us know. And be sure to like this video if it's helpful, and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos.